the money they made. They were touting the fact that their players that got drafted this year made a combined like 48 million plus, or whatever the exact number is. I would think there's something fishy or illegal about that, but the NCAA tells me I'm wrong, so I'll just take their word for it. But they don't seem to know their rules any better than the rest of us do. Anyway, a lot has been made about how to beat Alabama, who's going to dethrone Alabama. And I hope somebody can, but let's face it, nobody's going to. And I'm really getting sick of reading all these articles about how Ohio State could dethrone Alabama. No, they won't. They went undefeated last year. I don't care. That season didn't count. They were on suspension. That season doesn't count in the record books, and they didn't get to play in any bowl games. I don't care if they went undefeated in the Big Ten last year. And I'm a Big Ten grad. I'm an alum from the University of Illinois. I love watching the Big Ten do well. But I was also embarrassed the back-to-back years Ohio State went to the national championship and got absolutely lambasted. It showed how far behind the Big Ten is behind the SEC. I hope for the school to do well, even though with that arrogant the Ohio State or the Ohio State, whatever you want to call it, somebody from Ohio can give me a call and correct me. But I don't want to see them in the national championship game just to lose by 50 to a much better Alabama team, and they're not going to make it anyway. The Big Ten's got some decent talent in there. I doubt they'll go undefeated again, but you never know. Hopefully they won't. Right now they're sitting at number 3 behind Alabama and Oregon, but right behind them is Clemson, who jumped from 8 to 4 this week, and a huge jump because they squeaked by Georgia, who was rated just a little bit ahead of them at number 5. It was a heck of a game, and it was probably the game of the week if you got to catch it. 38-35, Clemson defeats Georgia, and they jump from 8 to 4. And here's the thing with Clemson. They've got a real outside shot to make the national championship game because they've got some quality teams on their schedule. They've got a Boston College and a Virginia squads that are fairly solid, and historically, those names carry some weight in college football. They also have Florida State, who've already shown themselves to be a player and are currently ranked number 10, and they have South Carolina, who are currently ranked number 6. If Clemson can run the table, they could jump over Ohio State, and they can jump over Oregon, because, quite frankly, in my eyes, as the season progresses, I believe Clemson's schedule is going to be a much tougher one than Alabama or Oregon's. So that's a team to keep an eye on. Plus, they're just fun to watch. Also rounding out the top 10 is you've got Stanford at 5, Texas A&M at 7, Louisville at 8, and LSU at 9. It's a pretty solid top 10, and I don't think too much is going to change by the end of the year except for Louisville. I'd expect Louisville to drop out of there, and maybe Stanford. They're always tough, though. I don't know what to think about them. But Louisville, I think they're more of a paper tiger at this point, and I think they're going to drop out probably within the next 4 to 5 weeks of the top 10. And since I'm an Illinois guy, and a lot of you out there know that I grew up in the Chicagoland area, I went to U of I for college, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss some of the Illinois teams this week. University of Illinois won their game, wonderfully, against Southern Illinois University. Problem was it was 42-34. Southern Illinois is not exactly known for their powerhouse football program, and winning it by only 8 points is not a good sign. Their quarterback, Nathan Shieldhouse, had a good day with 416 passing yards, but only 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. I think it's going to be a long year again, my fellow friends and fans, because, let's face it, U of I, while they're pretty good at getting talent, or at least Ron Zook was, that coaching is abysmal. Coming off a 2-win season with several guys getting drafted into the NFL, yeah, I am not high on the expectations for the Fighting Illini. However, you know who I am high on, and that's Northern Illinois University. And I'm curious to see if they can repeat last year's Orange Bowl run.
My curiosity is killing me just like a cat would be killed by the curiosity, yeah!
They had a great win with a fourth quarter comeback over Iowa this week. They beat them 30-27, and they entered the fourth quarter down 20-24. Their quarterback, Jordan Lynch, threw for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns in a thrilling late comeback in the fourth quarter. And NIU got dished on harshly last year. A lot of people saying they didn't deserve to be in the Orange Bowl. You know what? Screw that. I mean, it's fun, and these aren't the rules we came up with. You want to change the system? Put in a playoff. But then don't complain when the BCS puts in a team like NIU, and even though they didn't look that competitive in that game, it doesn't matter. It's a great story, and it was an honor for that team to be there, and I'd like to see them do it again and get another shot at it, because quite frankly, a small school with the loyal fan base they have deserves it. Before we get to our next segment, the Fantasy Football Weekly, that segment's going to be brought to you by Phil's Sports Bar and Grill. And if you're like me, then you're always on the lookout for a great place to watch the game. The best place I have found is Phil's Sports Bar and Grill, located on the corner of Prairie and Burlington in Brookfield, Illinois. Phil's features daily specials, 10 TVs, and complimentary Wi-Fi so that you can follow your fantasy teams as well. And on top of all that, Phil's has a great atmosphere and sensational food. Check out Phil's Sports Bar and Grill today. As I said, we are now going to talk about our Fantasy Football Weekly. As those of you who listen to me regularly know, last week we talked about you last-minute drafters and who to get value for in late rounds. This week we're going to talk about setting up those lineups. I've talked to several people over the past week, and they've given me some good questions and some good people to discuss. So, for the first one, we have Daryl Richardson or Giovanni Bernard. Daryl Richardson is the running back for the Rams. Last year, as Steven Jackson's backup, he had flashes of brilliance and is the runaway starter for the Rams this year. He is definitely going to start, and his first week is against Arizona. And that's going to be in St. Louis on the turf. And then the other running back that was mentioned was Giovanni Bernard, who is the Bengals running back, rookie, who is currently on the depth chart behind BenJarvus Green-Ellis, but is fully expected to supplant him during the season, and in the meantime is still going to get plenty of carries and touches throughout the game. And they're versus Chicago in Week 1. Looking at this, I say there's two factors with choosing between these two. First of all, you always go for a starter over a non-starter, which puts Daryl Richardson fully ahead of Giovanni Bernard. While I expect Bernard to have a very good season and end up competing for Rookie of the Year, right now he is listed as the backup behind the law firm, BenJarvus Green-Ellis. But he might get some good stats, but then we come to point number 2. Arizona or Chicago. The Bengals are in Chicago against a historically very stingy defense. Giovanni Bernard, as the backup running back against a run defensive stopping team in Chicago, is far less likely to put up bigger numbers than Daryl Richardson, who is set to face Arizona in St. Louis as the primary starter. Plus, Arizona, while they have really shored up their pass defense with Tyrann Mathieu and Patrick Peterson and Antrell Roll, their run defense can somewhat be suspect. They've got a weak linebacking core, and their defensive tackles seem to not to know whether to decide whether to play up or play down from week to week. So, between those two, Daryl Richardson is your starter. Now, obviously, that's not to say Daryl Richardson should plant a guy like a Frank Gore or a Chris Johnson or a Jamal Charles, but between those two, or between any rookie, I say give Daryl Richardson the start on this one. Speaking of Johnsons, we've got Stevie Johnson next, and his comparison to Tavon Austin. This is a really interesting one. Stevie Johnson, the wide receiver for the Bills, has put up solid numbers for the past 3 or 4 seasons. He's very consistent, and you know what you're getting on a week-to-week basis. Whereas Tavon Austin is a rookie wide receiver for the St. Louis Rams. Again, you got to look at the peripherals, see what else is going around on this. You got Tavon Austin, who's a rookie. Traditionally, wide receiver rookies take a little bit of time to adapt to the speed of the league. Although, drafted in the first round by the Rams, this is probably not going to be his problem since he was drafted specifically for his blazing speed. He's also versing Arizona, which I just mentioned, has a very good pass defense, a very underrated one that doesn't get noticed too much in that division because there are a lot of run teams in that division with the Seahawks and the And the 49ers, who are run first, you don't get to see Arizona's pass defense on display too much. Whereas Stevie Johnson is dealing with a rookie quarterback in E.J. Manuel, and they're facing the Patriots. This one, it depends on how your league's set up. If you've got a league where special teams points don't count for your receiver, I'd go with Stevie Johnson. The Patriots are a weak defensive team, and they're going to be in Buffalo. I know he's got a rookie quarterback, but he is going to start. He was the only first-round pick. I think he's going to put up some pretty solid numbers. I think 75 to 80 yards and maybe even a touchdown is not of the realm of possibility for that one. Tavon Austin, on the other hand, while being a speed receiver, is probably going to get defended by Patrick Peterson, since he's going to automatically step into the number one receiver range. But if you've got special teams points that count in your league, like in one of my leagues, punt return and kick return yards give you points, then I'd start Tavon Austin, because he's going to get the special team duties as well. And this guy can fly. He might get a touchdown on special teams. But as a pure receiver, I'd stay away from him in week 1, unless you're very thin at receiver. I don't think he's going to do much for you this week. Another thing that I like to do in fantasy is look at defense. What I like to do is I like to draft 2 defenses, and I like to rotate them based on matchup. Because when you look out throughout the season, defenses, they don't vary that much in points. The number 1 defense and the last ranked defense, the gap is not as big as it is for quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, basically any other position. So over the course of a season, your average points for defense works out. But you want to win each and every game. So that's why in fantasy I play the matchups. So I'm going to give you 3 teams to avoid and 3 teams to start this week. First one to avoid, Buffalo. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. They're facing the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Should be a fairly fun matchup, but the Patriots' offense has always been solid underneath Tom Brady, and I don't expect it to be any different this year. Hey, if you disagree with me, call me at 534-0779 or tweet me at the CSBS. But I just don't see Buffalo stopping that Patriots offense, even with a whole new receiving core. I expect this to be a 35-27 game. And the next one to avoid, and I think you're going to be shocked by this one, is the San Francisco 49ers. They're one of the best defense, if not the best defense in the NFL. But they're playing the Packers, and virtually no one shuts down the Packers. We all know what they're going to do. Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and pass to James Jones, Randall Cobb, and Jordy Nelson, and he's probably not going to do it about 70% of the time, and their only run game is the rookie running back, Eddie Lacy. However, they always seem to put out points because Aaron Rodgers is probably the best quarterback in the league. So, I like San Francisco. I think they're going to be one of the favorites to go to and win the Super Bowl. And this game could very well be the NFC Championship preview. But I'm not putting in that defense against the Packer offense, because I'm guessing the Packers are going to put 20 plus on there. And the third one is Minnesota. Another surprise, because they're historically a solid defense as well. But I like the Lions. I like what they did in the offseason. I like that they added Reggie Bush to the team. I like that they got some defenders that are not knuckleheads and won't make stupid mistakes anymore. And they've got the best receiver in football, Calvin Johnson.
He looks like Jerry Rice out there.
And Minnesota just lost Antoine Winfield, its best cornerback. A very physical corner who's been great for a long time. They just lost their best cover guy, and they're going against the best receiver in the NFL. I don't like this matchup for the Vikings. I think last year was a fluke year for them. I think they're going to be lucky to win 7 games, and I think they're a long shot to repeat the 10-6 record they had. I think the Lions are on the upswing, and I think they're going to just hammer them in this Week 1 showing. I would expect the Lions to put up somewhere in the range of 27 points this week. Now, 3 to start, and these are probably going to shock you too. Miami. The Miami Dolphins have got a very solid defense that has always been handicapped by the fact that they had an incompetent offense. This year, the Dolphins have really gone out of their way to try and improve the offense. They've signed some free agents, most notably Mike Wallace from the Steelers to give them a deep threat. Tannehill is entering his second year. They've got a really fast speed back in Lamar Miller,